Good evening, South Australia, or wherever else you might be tuning in from. This is going to be a little bit of a lengthy presentation, just going to cover a bit of information with you this evening, play some videos, talk into a few things, run some slides, play some videos, and look, this is purely for information purposes, entertainment. You can take out of it what you wish. I'm really just presenting it to you, and ultimately, you can take it from there. You can do further due diligence. You can, start a group and do something more about what I'm showing you. You can just, watch it, take away the information and put it in your back pocket for later. Whatever it is, or simply do nothing. But thought I'd like to cover it. There's obviously some concerns for myself that I feel warrants me sharing this information with you, and we'll just get into it. So I'm going to be sharing a couple of slides, some videos, so hopefully the tech goes all well and you can all hear me out there. Try and keep an eye on any comments that might be coming through as well. So we'll get the show on the road, and I'll just chuck this bit of a slideshow up. So I'm going to be talking, into South Australia, Adelaide, talking a bit about social media, facial recognition, innovation state, Adelaide being the innovation state, smart cities technologies, a little bit CBDCs, not too much choice, free will, and your future, and how all that ties in. So look, it's going to be a little bit of a bumper show. It might go a bit longer this evening, trialing out, obviously working with slides and video, bouncing around a few things, and just trying to, I guess, improve what I'm presenting to you. So first of all, I want to cover something, and I want you to keep this in mind for as I go on. I'm going to play you this video. It's a few minutes. It's about a friend that a lot of people probably know about, and I've seen his videos. But the reason I'm priming you up with this while you watch this and keep this in your mind, I'd like you to just reflect on what I'm showing you for the rest of the presentation, and just think about, what that ties in and what he's actually saying, because he's not the only one. He's a number of a small group of people that I assert want to control us, and ultimately want to be our gods. So many of you may already know who this is, but look, I'm going to introduce Yuval Noah Harari, and most of you probably do already know him. So Yuval Noah Harari has given keynote speeches at prominent events, including the World Economic Forum in Davos. He has also engaged in public conversations with world leaders such as President Emmanuel Macron of France and Chancellor Angela Merkel of Germany, as well as with tech industry leaders like Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg. He's the author of Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind, Homo Deus, A Brief History of Tomorrow, 21 Lessons for the 21st Century, and Nexus, A Brief History of Information Networks from the Stone Age to AI. So I wanted to play this video just to prime you up and just keep you thinking as I go along with the rest of the presentation about what he's actually saying here. So we'll bring him up here and have a bit of a play of that.
We are probably one of the last generations of Homo sapiens, because in the coming generations, we will learn how to engineer bodies and brains and minds. Now, how exactly will the future masters of the planet look like? This will be decided by the people who own the data. Now, why is data so important? It's important because we've reached the point when we can hack not just computers, we can hack human beings and other organisms. Now, what do you need in order to hack a human being? You need two things. You need a lot of computing power, and you need a lot of data, especially biometric data. But control of data might enable human elites to do something even more radical than just build digital dictatorships. By hacking organisms, elites may gain the power to re-engineer the future of life itself. Because once you can hack something, you can usually also engineer it. All of life, for 4 billion years, dinosaurs, amoebas, tomatoes, humans, all of life was subject to the laws of natural selection and to the laws of organic biochemistry. But this is now about to change. Science is replacing evolution by natural selection with evolution by intelligent design. Not the intelligent design of some god above the clouds, but our intelligent design and the intelligent design of our clouds, the IBM cloud, the Microsoft cloud. These are the new driving forces of evolution. And at the same time, science may enable life after being confined for 4 billion years to the limited realm of organic compounds. Science may enable life to break out into the inorganic realm. Humans are now hackable animals. You know, the whole idea that humans have, you know, this, they have this soul or spirit and they have free will and nobody knows what's happening inside me. So whatever I choose, whether in the election or whether in the supermarket, this is my free will, that's over. Free will, that's over.
That's over.
Over. Today, we have the technology to hack human beings on a massive scale. Yeah, I mean, everything is being digitalized. Everything is being monitored. In this time of crisis, you have to follow science. It's often said that you should never allow a good crisis to go to waste, because a crisis is an opportunity to also do good reforms that in normal times people will never agree to. But in a crisis, you see, we have no chance. So let's do it.
Vaccine won't help us go
The
to the
vaccine
test, of course.
will help us, of course. It will make things, you know, more manageable.
Surveillance, people could look back in 100 years and identify the coronavirus epidemic as the moment when a new regime of surveillance took over, especially surveillance under the skin, which I think is maybe the most important development of the 21st century, is this ability to hack human beings, to go under the skin, collect biometric data, analyze it, and understand people better than they understand themselves. This, I believe, is maybe the most important event of the 21st century.
By hacking organisms, elites may gain the power to re-engineer the future of life itself. Because once you can hack something, you can usually also engineer it.
Natural selection is replaced by intelligent design. The era of inorganic life is now beginning.
In the coming decades, AI and biotechnology will give us godlike abilities to re-engineer life and even to create completely new life forms. We are about to enter a new era of inorganic life shaped by intelligent design. Our intelligent design.
Need an affordable everyday kitchen knife?
So there you go. That is Yuval Noah Harari, and it just never ceases to amaze me when listening to him speak. But as we go through the rest, I just want you to think about. I'm going to start off sort of slow and then get into it, and just see what you think about whether you need to join some organisations and groups to push back further on. And he's just one of many. He's part of the 1%, the global elite, that actually believe this. And just getting back to Big T 68, thanks for your comment. Look, hey, I don't know, but I want to do the best that I can to try and raise awareness, and I just don't want to give up. So I'm just going to do my little bit to in whatever way, shape, or form that I can to help people join together, wake up, do their own research, start thinking about it. So we'll just move on. So look, I wanted to start really quickly with, obviously, in the bill in the Parliament, the Australian Parliament, obviously, the children and teenagers under 16 to be banned from social media after Parliament passes World first laws. So we had that during the week. That was in the last sitting day of the federal parliament. Was rammed through with about 40 odd bills, and that was one of them, and come through pretty quickly. So that's happened here in our nation in Australia. If anybody is obviously watching or not aware, but it's been quite a strong headline. So I'd say most probably aware of it there. So children and teenagers will be banned from using social media from the end of next year after the government's world first legislation passed the parliament with bipartisan support. That means anyone under the age of 16 will be blocked from using platforms including TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, a move the government and the coalition argue is necessary to protect their mental health and well-being. And can I just stop there, because if we're talking about the mental health and well-being, they did not care at all about children's mental health and well-being over the last 4 years of COVID. They locked playgrounds so kids couldn't play outside. They locked them inside. They locked all their families inside. They possibly locked them inside with abusive people or parents under massive stress from being locked down, possibly losing their jobs and everything else. So, if we're going to talk about mental health of children and well-being of children, look at what you've put them through in the last 4 years, making them go to school with masks and all the fear-mongering that you've attributed to them. But I don't want to sidetrack too much. The late vote capped off a frantic evening in the Senate, where the government managed to ram through most of its legislative agenda on the final full sitting day of the year. We've seen that through. It was getting quite a bit of pushback there. Tech companies also agitated for the debate to be delayed until the government's age verification trial is finalised. Under the laws, which won't come into force for another 12 months, so good to know, we might be able to push back and do something about it, or even get rid of this government and bring some independents, minor parties in that can change some things, repeal laws, whatever that is. Media companies could be fined up to 50 million for failing to take reasonable steps to keep under 16s off their platforms. There are no penalties for young people or parents who flout the rules. Social media companies also won't be able to force users to provide government identification, including the digital ID, to assess their age. Now, this is important because what else are they pushing them into? Messaging apps, online gaming services, and services with primary purpose of supporting the health and education of end users will not fall under the ban, as well as sites like YouTube do not require users to log on to access the platform. The bill was introduced to Parliament last Thursday and was referred for a Senate inquiry the same day. Submissions to the inquiry closed on Friday. A 3-hour hearing was held on Monday, and the report was tabled on Tuesday. Almost all the submissions raised concerns about the extremely short consultation period, the committee report noted. So we'll go on. The Premier, so banning social media for children. So the Premier, Peter Malinauskas, so this is our South Australian Premier, who's been pushing this quite a bit. Today released a report, so this goes back to September 24. Report by the former Chief Justice of the High Court, the Honourable Robert French. The report is the result of an independent legal examination commissioned by the Premier in May, so Peter Malinauskas, our Labor Premier, amid escalating concerns from experts, educators and parents. So experts, educators, and I can almost guarantee you this push isn't from the majority of concerned parents in South Australia and Australia. This push is more nefarious than that, but we'll keep going. The 276-page report includes a proposed bill which sets out the legislative framework to ban social media for children under 14. So this is what was proposed here in South Australia. The Children's Social Media Safety Bill 2024 imposes a positive obligation and duty on social media platforms to prevent access to their services. A second and separate duty would require providers to take reasonable steps from a systemic perspective and prevent access within the restricted age ranges, for example, through the implementation of available technology and processes. So, good to keep in mind where the push is and where they're trying to get us to. Now, the system would be overseen by a regulator, which would be responsible for monitoring compliance and issuing a range of sanctions to social media platforms for breach, including substantial financial penalties. And going on, while Mr. French's reviews makes clear that it's open to states to act independently of one another and the Commonwealth, it would be clearly more desirable for a harmonised approach across states or an exercise led by the Commonwealth. So this is obviously what we've seen play out. Now it is obviously been legislated by the Commonwealth. At National Cabinet on Friday, Premier Peter Malinauskas discussed the proposed social media regulations with all premiers, chief ministers and the Prime Minister, and made clear the South Australian government's preference to work in collaboration with other jurisdictions. The release of Mr. French's report comes ahead of the joint social media summit, which was in October, featuring an array of experts from regulatory, technical, ethical and health sectors to highlight the many and complex matters surrounding the growing societal problem. So that just talks a little bit about the Honourable Robert French AC. So I'm just going to quickly play this for you. This is our Premier Malinauskas. Going to play that for you real quick.
In regards to the tech giants, well, my message to them is pretty clear, right? Change has got to come here, whether they like it or not. And they've essentially got two options, don't they? They can either sit down and work with legislators and regulators to develop a model that is consistent with, what I think the public reasonably expect, or they can fight it. Now, if they choose to fight it, then they will find themselves in a deleterious position. They will find themselves working against states, the Commonwealth. They'll find themselves working against parents. And I don't think that would be a very prudent response on their behalf, but that's on them. In regards to the tech giant.
So that's on them. Does anybody feel that Premier Peter Malinauskas got more smug over time? I don't know. I just feel that he's got a little bit more smug. But anyway, I don't know, maybe it's overconfidence or something like that. So how will it work? Tech platforms will be required by law to take reasonable steps to ensure children under 16 are not using their services. Currently, many platforms regulate to prevent under 13s, with many merely asking users to type in their age. Others, like Meta, have more complex systems in place to detect age. The e-Safety Commissioner will be in charge of determining what these reasonable steps are and will issue regulatory guidance about how to take them. The government has not said exactly what methods the e-Safety Commissioner will recommend, but it has previously put forward a double-blind tokenised approach, whereby information would be provided to a verifying third party that would certify the user's age to social media platforms without revealing details about the child. This could involve all Australians being made to supply IDs or biometric data to prove their age. This could involve all Australians being made to supply IDs or biometric data to prove their age. The government is currently undertaking trials on the technology. No country, so will it actually work? No country has brought a system like this one that the e-Safety Commission is proposing, showing how technically difficult it would be. There are also concerns that simpler systems would be easily bypassed. In June, tech giant Meta deployed an age verification system from technology company Yachty for Australian Facebook users trying to edit their age to gain access. Users were asked to prove their age by uploading a video selfie or submitting an ID. But one reporter was able to buy a knife online using editing software to digitally age the photo of a 9-year-old girl. Are there other problems? A ban on social media for children under 16 could result in even more surveillance of all users. This is from an activist, a digital rights activist. My God, banning people under 16 from using social media will not work, digital rights activist Meredith Whitaker said in a recent interview. It would basically be creating a system to monitor internet usage at a whole population scale, because you can't know that somebody is over 16 without checking everyone. And these are some of the big concerns that people have raised, right? Lots of people have raised that specific concern, and this is where I assert and going through this presentation and showing what's possible and what's capable of. And you heard Yuval, you know where they all want to go. In biometric.update.com, Australia forges ahead with digital identity releases second digital services standard. Phased rollout extends through to 2026. A release from the Australian government says it wants to expand the voluntary use of digital ID to bring whole of economy benefits as the country continues to see rapid movement in digital transformation efforts. The expanded Australian government digital ID system is rolling out in 4 phases, which may overlap or be preceded by pilots. Its accreditation scheme will be of note to biometrics and digital ID providers. Biometrics and digital ID providers, particularly those like iProve, Yoti and IDEMIA, which have existing relationships with government bodies in Australia. Phase 1 has already begun with the rollout of MyID to more than 185 government services accessible to the millions of Australians who use the MyID app. On December 1, which has just happened, legislation will commence, which it did, to provide legislative authority to AGDIS to expand as well as strengthening governance, privacy and consumer protection and the voluntary accreditation scheme for digital ID service providers. This kicks off the second phase of digital ID implementation, during which accredited state and territory digital ID providers can apply to the digital ID regulator to join AGDIS as a relying service. The idea is to offer more choice in digital identity options for access to government services. For individual digital ID holders, nothing changes. Government units wishing to join the digital ID system will be required to undertake testing with a system administrator before submitting an application. Phase 3, to commence by December 26, opens applications to private sector services wishing to join the government digital ID system. Banks, telecom providers and the real estate sector are offered as example of private businesses that may want their customers to be able to verify identity with digital ID or even biometric. Phase 4, also to commence by December 26, allows accredited private sector providers, attribute providers and exchange providers to apply for the digital ID regulator to join AGDIS. You know, we talk about hacking and all these sorts of things. That really, I mean, it really concerns me where we're going with biometrics, especially with, you know, people always outsmart governments. We've seen lots of hacks happening, Optus, you know, FPOSs go down, all these sorts of things. So it really does concern me. So then, yeah, Australia's digital ID comes into force. So concerns with how voluntary the ID will be. So Liberal Senator, good old Alex Antich, good on you, Alex. You're an absolute legend. I love you fighting for our country and all of us. Raised concerns with the voluntary clause of the digital ID law. He pointed to section 74.2, where a business does not breach the law if they can offer an alternative way to access the service they offer. For example, a bank can require digital ID for online services or to open an account as long as customers who don't want to provide their ID can access the bank through a physical branch or some other means. We all know that online banking is going to become even more prominent in the years ahead, and the number of physical branches and ATMs will probably decrease, which we've seen. They want nothing more, these big banks with their billion-dollar profits, to close more branches, and they've even tried to be as cheeky as charging people to take their money out over the counter. So, but I'll go on, potentially making it very difficult to access services, Antich warned. There's broad scope for this bill for minimising people's ability to engage in online transactions, including when it comes to banking. The South Australian Senator was also concerned with regulators having the power to grant exemptions. That's hardly comforting. It's simply up to the regulator to determine whether making a digital ID mandatory is appropriate or not, he said. Antich was also concerned the program will be another step towards a ubiquitous digital ecosystem. Let's read that to you again, though. It's simply up to the regulator to determine whether making a digital ID mandatory is appropriate or not. We've just seen bills being rammed through the parliament and those in power. So if they have the balance of power, Liberal or Labor, they will push these things through. You better believe they will. If they've had the ability to do so, unless we get some independent senators or parties like One Nation or libertarians, or whoever else might be putting forward, we need to crush the balance of power and be able to gazump these things that they want to try and push through. They did it before. So talking about facial recognition technology, so South Australia's already got that. As part of the gambling reform package introduced in South Australia, any venues authorised to operate 30 or more gaming machines, if at least one machine can be operated using a banknote acceptor, must also have approved facial recognition technology installed in their gaming rooms. Facial recognition technology supports licensed venues meet their responsibilities of identifying barred patrons. But look, what I'm saying is the technology is there. They're willing to use it. They have used it nefariously, as I'll go on further with other technology that they've developed and deployed as well. Expanding South Australia's artificial intelligence capability. The South Australian Government, through the Department of Industry, Innovation and Science, is investing a further $6 million matched by the University of Adelaide into artificial intelligence research and development of the Australian Institute for Machine Learning to expand its core work and make it more globally competitive. Now, look, I understand that we've got to be a competitive state, and I'm not saying that this technology in on its own itself is bad, but if it's in the wrong hands, and I've seen and I assert that over the last 4 years our government has overused their power. They have definitely misused the power that they've had, and this is what really concerns me and I guess many others in regards to that. So. Look, I really have concerns about how far they can take this technology. And just talking into this, South Australia's states its claim as the country's innovation state. From quantum technology to computer vision, renewable energy to AI, South Australia is a powerhouse when it comes to innovation, ingenuity and invention. South Australia's rich innovation history was recognised today at an event at Lot 14 with the Premier of South Australia, Peter Malinauskas, and Minister for Defence and Space Industry, Stephen Mulligan, who announced plans to harness the power of the state's innovation places. South Australia's Innovation District business parks and manufacturing precincts include Lot 14, Tonsley Innovation District, and Adelaide Biomed City, are the result of $9.5 billion investment from consecutive state and federal governments alongside industry, education and research organisations support. So then we have future industries, leverage of the rise in new high-tech, high-growth industries in South Australia. So they've got the industries include aerospace, space, digital infrastructure, machine learning and big data, renewable energy, VFX, VR and AR. And one of the things I'm going to be focusing a little bit on with technology in general and where we're at is is this renewable energy, okay? And I'm just going to play you something really quickly. I'll see if I can bring that up for you. Just bear with me. So I'll bring that up at the stage and we'll share this one instead. So this is from The Real Cost of Net Zero. So if people haven't seen this yet, I'd love to see many more people watch this. It's really important. It's just a short clip, the shocking truth of the renewable energy push, right? So this is going back to, how much South Australia has invested in renewable energy. So I'm just going to play this real quick.
And nowhere in the national electricity market is more unstable than South Australia, which has one of the highest penetrations of wind and solar generation on the planet.
Yes, we have to intervene in the South Australian market very often to make sure that there's enough system strength by directing on some gas plants to make sure that we have that heartbeat of the system.
It all comes at a cost, and South Australia has the highest retail power prices in Australia. Old, reliable generators also face the stress on equipment of having to ramp up and down to match a constantly shifting power source.
Which means that we have to continue to find ways to come down lower in generation and move our generation around in response to that.
So, with reliability risks growing, energy reserve margins falling, and delays in building new generation, the possibility of blackouts is rising.
So there you go. If you haven't already watched that documentary, I strongly encourage you to watch that. It is brilliantly put together documentary, and it really opened people's eyes up in regards to renewable energy. And now, our state's invested billions. They've blown up our coal-fired power station. It's a real eye opener. So let's move along. Let's talk a little bit about Adelaide and being a global smart city. So I'll have a bit of a yarn about that. So Adelaide will feature, goes back a bit. So okay, this goes back to 2014. So for people that weren't aware of this, Adelaide will feature as one of the world's smart cities in a new National Geographic television documentary series. City of Adelaide is delighted to participate with the State Government of South Australia, University of South Australia and Flinders University to showcase the city's credentials as a creative, connected and intelligent city. Adelaide has not only been selected as one of the 18 smart cities of the world, but also to officially launch the series of the Adelaide Oval. Now, I did want to show some of the PDFs, but they're not accessible anymore. And I was quite I was a bit of a user of the Wayback Machine. Now, for some reason, the Wayback Machine file, I can only now access it through Chrome apparently, and it looks like a lot of stuff isn't as accessible as what it was. So over the last month or month and a half, I used it quite a bit to look for things that they moved, and I don't know what's going on there. I haven't done much research into what's happening with the Wayback Machine, but I think they're messing around with it. I think Google have got their fingers in it, and which is really concerning, because there was an opportunity for researchers and people to go deep diving, could go back and find out things that they've removed from websites. So if anybody's got some insights into that and would like to share that with me at some stage, I'd love to see what's going on with the Wayback Machine, if you've got the tea on that as well. So really that was a big concern, because I used to be able to find stuff on the Wayback Machine, and I just can't now at the moment. Yep. You have to subsidise renewables quite a bit to make it all work. Absolutely. But moving along. So Adelaide, this is again covering a bit further. So this is from 2020. We actually make world's top 7 smart cities here in Adelaide. So Adelaide has been recognised overnight by a global think tank, the Intelligence Community Forum, ICF, as one of the top 7 intelligent communities in the world's top smart cities. In October last year, Adelaide won its spot among ICF's Smart 21 as the first step to greater recognition as an intelligent community. Adelaide is positioned well in the smart city space on the back of world-leading 10 gigabit Adelaide fibre optic network, and for embedding smart technology into the city's infrastructure. Again, I just want to stress, I'm not opposed to progress and technology and that. It just depends on who's got control of it, who's using it, and and for what purposes they're using it. All right. So that's why. So I'm just going to quickly play a couple more videos here now. We'll just go that. So this is Adelaide's most connected city. I'll just play this one for you quickly.
Hello, I'm Sandy Verschaw, Lord Mayor of Adelaide, the capital city of South Australia. The City of Adelaide is delighted and proud to be considered for the recognition as one of the top 7 intelligent communities. For over a decade, we've been strategically investing in projects which now position Adelaide as the most connected city in Australia. The cornerstone of this achievement is 10 Gigabit Adelaide, our new Australian-first 10 gigabit per second data network. We've already seen the positive impact 10 Gigabit Adelaide has on creative, biomedical and technological industries, and believe this is only the beginning. This is complemented by multiple channels of connectivity, such as the state and federal government broadband solutions and an expansion of the Adelaide free Wi-Fi, our inclusive solution for the wider community. As a city, we've built active and collaborative relationships across all levels of government, universities and the private sector. This has supported innovation and entrepreneurship, fueling investment and economic growth. We're attracting leading innovators to our city's newly dedicated innovation precinct, Lot 14, home to the Australian Space Agency and Massachusetts Institute of Technology's Living Lab. Importantly, sustainability is at the heart of everything we do to ensure thoughtful innovation and sustainable growth. To emphasise our commitment, we source our electricity from 100% renewable sources, and our operations will be carbon neutral by the end of 2020. Paired with our fantastic lifestyle offering, repeatedly recognised as one of the most livable cities in the world, Adelaide is a city that is designed for life. Thank you for recognising Adelaide as one of the top 21 intelligent communities and for considering our city for the top 7. We truly believe Adelaide is Australia's most connected city and that we have laid the groundwork to be one of the most connected communities in the world. If you'd like to learn more about our city, please visit our website. And I'm
just going to play a couple more videos for you. Adelaide. Just one more, then I'll keep moving.
It's Friday night and you're running a little late for a dinner reservation. Your usual route is full of traffic, so your car is guided through quieter back streets straight into an available parking space. You jump out and dart across a lush urban garden on the way to the restaurant. It starts to rain, so the low-flow sprinklers in the park shut down completely. It's getting darker as you get closer, and the streetlights come on as you approach, keeping you safe for your journey. Smart cities build on the spaces and services we already have, combining them with the best in research, technology, and analysis that we can develop to help cities grow well as populations increase, and we try to divide limited resources between a larger number of people. The Australian Smart Cities Consortium has been brought together to help to make this a reality. It's an exciting time, and right here at the University of Adelaide, we're working on some fantastic projects which will make Adelaide a world-class smart city.
Architecture and computer science students work together to create an interactive, augmented reality installation. The installation demonstrates how technology can deepen our understanding of the city, and improve the way people interact with public spaces.
We've been working with multidisciplinary research teams to develop ways to improve virtually all aspects of urban transportation. One of our current projects is developing devices that measure the distance between a cyclist and a passing vehicle.
Biodiverse urban green spaces are a well-accepted component of smart cities, and past studies have shown some spaces are good for our health. Our research is now looking at why these spaces are good for us, which will help inform future green space design guidelines.
We are using smart meter technology to get precise information about how people use water inside and outside their home. In the short term, it will enable residents to increase water efficiency and reduce leaks. In the long term, it will enable water authorities to better plan for our future water needs.
Our consortium puts your smart cities problems before the largest and most relevant group of University of Adelaide researchers. This expert cohort can deliver solutions to work in any council area, state, or even right across a nation. A smart city can be anything you want it to be. What do you want from your city?
Yeah. What do you want from your city? Adelaide, South Australia. Couple of things there. Hey, look, smart meters. Anybody heard about them? We're going to chat a little bit about that further. But you know, for a city of 2 million people, they're really pumping a lot of money and tech into Adelaide, there. And I just, for one, look. It's nice and warm and fuzzy. A lot of things I was saying is definitely, beneficial. They always package it really nicely, like everything, they package it really nice. It's like, take those jabs, it's for grandma, it's for the greater good, everything, they always sell it as a nice, but there's always something more sinister at play. And if we had a trustworthy government, I would probably not have a problem with a lot of this stuff. The same with the under 16 ban, but we don't. I don't believe we do. I'm just raising these things because I believe there's concerns going into the future with all this, and we've heard Yuval. We know where they want to go. So Australian smart communities. This is, you heard him talk about the smart consortium. So we support organisations to create smart communities. The Australian Smart Communities Association is Australia's only not-for-profit peak body dedicated to advocating on behalf of governments for smart communities in Australia. We work closely with our members across all levels of government to solve problems, enhance policy capacity, confidence by us, willing participants, maybe, so I don't know, and create innovative smart solutions for their communities. So, look, there's whole consortiums here now to push everybody towards, smart cities and all the technology that goes with it. So the World Economic Forum, which I speak about a lot as well, and a lot of other people we aware about, that big think tank that likes to dictate, they're actually quite happy with Adelaide. So in 2021, they recognised South Australia, or Adelaide, as one of the top 5 leading the charge for a renewable future. And I just showed you that little clip from Sky News there, that from that documentary. I encourage you to use it. So this is the WEF pushing climate change agendas and renewables future, and I have serious concerns about that. But Adelaide's municipal operations have been powered entirely by renewable energy since July 2020. The city gets energy from wind and solar farms, except at night time or when the wind's not blowing, of a long-term commitment to reach carbon neutrality by 2025. And again, I do not subscribe to catastrophic global climate change emergency that's being pushed, and there's nearly 2,000 scientists pushing back on that as well. Among the steps being taken to achieve this are energy efficient buildings, initiatives to promote cycling and walking, and schemes to support the uptake of hybrid and electric vehicles, right? So that's still being pushed. They want that out. They want us into electric vehicles, and it's easier to control electric vehicles down the road. We know they can be hacked and that as well. My mate Bruce and I have discussed it. Bruce brings some amazing content in regards to that topic as well. The city has also invested in energy storage technologies, including the Hornsdale Power Reserve. Blew up our coal-fired one though, in case of backup. It is one of the world's world's largest lithium-ion batteries and allows for greater use of a variety of renewable energy sources. Adelaide is also investigating the opportunity to harness biogas from wastewater treatment plants as an additional energy source as well. So, ruha. So, just going to quickly play one more thing it's showing there about. This video I'm going to show you now is someone raising concerns about data concerns in regards to smart cities. So I'm just going to play that for you now too.
Smart cities are beginning to pop up all over the planet. The definition of a smart city can vary, but basically, it's any city that is trying to create better services, operate more efficiently, and increase public safety by using new technology and collecting data from residents. And a lot of that can get picked up while you're walking down the street or driving your car. Cities are working on things like public Wi-Fi, better traffic management, driverless city buses, and kiosks that connect people with city events, nearby businesses, and emergency services. All helped along by information collected from residents. And that data can be extremely powerful.
It's more powerful than we might think even of some of the social media that we're sort of obsessed about our privacy on right now, because it is picking up location. And when you map that out and sort of peg it to other data that's maybe you're putting out into the world, credit card records, that sort of thing, it tells a really sort of nuanced picture of the way that you're engaging with the world.
In a time where data can be breached by hackers or a backdoor left open for data thieves to walk in and ransack the place, some people are sounding the alarm on smart cities because of concerns about data privacy. And so the biggest question is, do we know how cities are protecting this data?
We don't have a ton of insight. There's not real sort of well-developed rules about how that data can be used.
The concerns range from the sharing of data between the different municipal agencies that collect it to the private companies and vendors that get involved in helping boost these tech advances.
A lot of times when we have this more advanced infrastructure, it's third-party companies that are coming in and actually supplying those services. And there's not a real well-developed set of rules around how these companies are actually protecting that data.
And this is a global issue. The city-state of Singapore plans to become a smart nation. By collecting traffic data, it says will help to protect residents. The government insists the data will be anonymous, and outside consultants will test the system's security for weaknesses. Google's parent company Alphabet is involved in working on Toronto's Smart City Initiative. It's having very public conversations with residents about how data is going to be used from the start.
There's a very spirited public conversation about Facebook and that sort of data. I think in 5-10 years, we're going to be having the same sort of spirited debate about cities and data.
So there you go. There's some people raising some concerns in regards to data, and you heard Yuval at the beginning. They want to track. They want all of us. Nothing. We are hackable animals, according to him. And I just don't trust our government. They can't be trusted, and this is why we need independent senators or from minor parties being able to stop their balance of power and rushing through bills and legislation, which I know they will. But I'll just changing tact a little bit now. So we talked about obviously the smart cities, the data, Adelaide, South Australia in regards to the technology that we have and that they're investing into. But the next thing I wanted to go on to is this big thing about declaring emergencies. So our Labor Premier, Peter Malinauskas here in South Australia, has declared a climate emergency, and it passes in the Parliament. And we've just come out of a health emergency, and what they did during that period of time. When they start making things, legislating things that are an emergency, now that should worry everybody immensely. So we've got here in South Australia a climate emergency declaration has passed. So it's not too far of a stretch to contemplate linking 15-minute cities to these concerns under the guise of a climate emergency, and how they'll use it into the future and so forth, right? So that's just me. Maybe I'm looking into it too much. I'm just providing you the information for you to do your own due diligence, let it, percolate in your mind about all this and tying it together. South Australia has joined other governments and jurisdictions around the world in declaring a climate emergency in Parliament today. Climate Minister Susan Close introduced the climate climate emergency motion, which passed both houses tonight, reaffirming the urgent need to decarbonise the South Australian economy and shift to renewable sources of energy. And we see how our renewables are going. It's all going really great. South Australia is paying the highest energy prices in our nation. Minister Close last year tabled a petition with more than 10,000 signatures from South Australians demanding immediate action on climate change. Now, I wonder which organisations those 10,000 people belong to. Do you think they could have been, Greens voters and, other climate action activists and stuff? I don't know, but I don't know. 10,000 doesn't seem to be a whole lot out of, a couple of million, but yeah, you get that. So moving along, if anybody's interested, I did write to the Premier at the time, South Australia's declaration of a climate emergency. I used to post on Locals. I'm now obviously on Substack, but if anybody wants to check that out, it's on my Locals. The letter I wrote to the Premier about my concerns for him declaring a climate emergency. But anyway, that was just to throw in from there. So let's talk a little bit about emergencies then, especially here in South Australia through COVID. So South Australia, our great state, trials facial recognition for home quarantine, of all things, randomly checks to see if you are there. South Australia is trialling, so again, this goes back to 21, right? South Australia is trialling an app that will monitor people who are in home quarantine by checking geolocation data and scanning their faces. The trial, which began on Monday, allows around 50 South Australian residents returning from interstate to conduct their 14 days of mandatory quarantine from home. Residents who sign up onto the trial will install the Home Quarantine SA app on their smartphones to monitor their compliance with quarantine requirements through the random in-app checkups. So do pretty punch above our weight here in South Australia in regards to technology. We pushed through this facial recognition trial. So we'll move on here just on that article. Users will have 15 minutes when the app pings them to prove that they are their homes by showing the app their faces and giving it access to geolocation data. So you've got to scan your faces, biometrics. This is what it's all about. This is the things that people are raising concerns about, that they're brushing off because it's all warm and fuzzy. It's for the greater good. If they fail to do so, police will check in on them in person. A spokesperson for SA's Department of Premier Cabinet told Information Age the Home Quarantine SA app was developed from scratch here in SA over 2.5 months by a team within the state government. Right, so we are pumping billions of dollars into our tech, and does anybody feel like that might be used against him at some stage? I don't know. Just put it out there. SA Premier Stephen Marshall at the time. So this is bipartisan. This is whether it's Labor or Liberal, two sides of the same coin. Covering that later. Said the Home Quarantine SA app, which also contains a COVID-19 testing schedule, daily symptom checks, and well-being resources, is an important part of the state's COVID-19 management plan. This innovative technology is the most advanced of its kind in Australia, and if the trial proves successful, could prove more options for home quarantine for returned South Australians, or for future pandemics maybe, or future things. They've tested things pretty well. We take no decision lightly when it comes to community safety. It must be reiterated, this is a trial. Sure it is. And the outcomes and lessons learned from it will be foremost amongst any decision to continue or expand it. Yeah, well, I think your decisions are already made up. The lessons learned from it will be tricked up to see how they can be better used against the populace, I assert. According to its privacy statement, Home Quarantine SA will encrypt data immediately upon submission before sending it to an Australian server under control of the Government of South Australia. However, there have been issues in other states with police using data collected by COVID-19 apps for purposes other than enforcing pandemic compliance, including in WA, where the government quickly had to pass legislation stopping WA police from accessing QR check-in data. So do you think it's open to be abused? Yes, it is. Data from the app will be destroyed at the conclusion of COVID-19 pandemic, the privacy statement says, unless it is needed to enforce a breach of emergency laws. Oh, good old emergency laws. They can do anything under emergency laws, can't they? But anyway, if you do want to read a little bit more about this, and I'm going to tie this in a little bit now, there's an article on the Brownstone Institute, and many others are playing where you follow Exit the WHO team and that as well. But amendments to the WHO's international health regulations and annotated guide. This is an article on the Brownstone Institute, and you know, it raises great concerns for people, particularly if you're looking at enforcing data under health emergency. So we're not only are they looking at this as a climate emergency, but also a health emergency. The imposition of authoritarian rules on a global scale would normally attract attention. The WHO is fairly transparent on its machinations. It should therefore be straightforward to determine whether this is all misplaced hysteria or an attempt to implement an existential change in sovereign rights and international relations. We would just need to read the document. Firstly, it is useful to put the amendments in context. The proposed new powers sought by the WHO and the pandemic preparedness industry being built around it are not hidden. The only subterfuge is the farcical approach of media and politicians in many nations who seem to pretend they are not proposed or do not, if implemented, fundamentally change the nature of the relationship between people and centralized non-state powers. The people who will become subject to these powers and the politicians who are on track to cede them should start paying attention, I would say close attention. We must all decide whether we wish to cede so easily what it has taken centuries to gain to assuage the greed of others. You know, so I'm just tying this in, I'm just letting people know we've already got Exit the WHO. We know, you know, I've been sharing stuff in regards to this, and you know, people can do their own research in regards to these amendments to the IHR. So I wanted to tie that in at a more local level. So my local council, if we're talking about a climate change emergency, is kind of where I'm kind of going with this, because we're talking about emergencies. We saw what they could do under under a health emergency. I'm talking about now a climate emergency. So this was the ordinary council meeting, 20th of September 22 for my council, District Council of Yankalilla. I'm just going to read this quick. This is a section in the Local Government Association, which obviously lobbies on behalf of all the councils in the state. You know, they've got a pretty big sway on this as well. So prepare communities aware of and responding to the health risks of climate change. So not only is climate change an existential threat and we need to put emergency powers on there, but we know that health, they've also can declare health emergency. So here's a double banger as a health emergency on top of a climate emergency, but for down the track and into the future. Climate change is also undermining key determinants of health. Our region's emissions must be reduced to mitigate the impacts on community health, well-being, property and infrastructure, and energy insurance prices. So I'm going to go into that a little bit further. Insurance premiums are rising in areas prone to extreme weather events, and in some areas insurance is now unavailable. It has been reported around 10% of homeowners and 40% of renters are underinsured, and that our region faces a fast expansion of insurance red zones, uninsurable housing, with uninsurable address predicted to rise by tenfold by 2100. Oh dear, do you see where this is going? Well, let's have a look here at the World Economic Forum again. Climigration, the new world to describe the harrowing reality for millions of climate refugees. Oh, these emergencies cause all sorts of strife, don't they? And the World Economic Forum is always there to help and protect us, aren't they? Climate change is increasingly threatens communities all over the world. News of fires, floods, and coastal erosion devastating lives and livelihoods seems almost constant because you keep pushing at your fearmongers, and our media is complicit along the way. The latest fires in Queensland and New South Wales mark the start of the earliest bushfire season the states have ever seen. What happens when climate change causes extreme events to become chronic, potentially rendering some communities unviable? See where this is going? This question is fueling a new strand of global research focused on Climigration. Climigration is the planned relocation of entire communities to new locations further from harm, and it has already begun. It takes a lot to convince a community to move. Oh yeah, no, you think? But extreme events, let me just get this up a bit. Extreme events disrupt communities socially, economically, and physically. Buildings and infrastructure are damaged, as are community cohesion and morale. Lives may be lost. Many others are changed forever. When extreme events disrupt communities, responses usually occur in one of two ways. We can try to repair damage and continue as before, which is known as resilience, or we can try to repair and fortify against future damage in a process of adaptation. Climigration is an extreme form of climate change adaptation. You think it might be pushing us in that direction, but anyway, let's just keep going. In the vein of this, I just need you to be aware of Kate Mason and others, but I really love the work Kate does. She deep dives a lot into this topic. And I just wanted to share with you, if you're not already following Kate Mason on Substack, I highly recommend you do. She has written some brilliant article covering the stuff that I'm talking about here. This is a recent one. And she meant, when we're talking about climigration, it ties in with Managed Retreat Australia. So I highly recommend reading some of her Substack articles about Managed Retreat Australia, which pretty much talks about this whole uninsurable zone. So in the last 7:30 report titled, experts say updated flood zone modelling could leave some homes uninsurable. You know, this is all trying to get us off the areas, out of lands, out of certain areas, you know. But again, you know, you need to do your own due diligence and research and investigate where you think this is all going. I'm just providing you the information to percolate into your minds and think about where this is all going. But if people think this is a bit unfathomable that this is happening, back in 2016, Hydro Tasmania was asked to explain cloud seeding in catchment day before flooding. So, you know, this is, and a lot of people are talking about this, and people keep brushing this off as conspiracy theories and all these sorts of things. Do you see a little bit of a pattern forming where they've been, you know, talking to people about, oh, you have to move, you might be able to uninsure it, you know, you're in this type of zone and stuff like that. So it's just worthwhile bearing in mind where this might be all going. So cloud seeding program over Snowy Hydro was suspended. Snowy Hydro has suspended its cloud seeding operation, which over a decade has thrust at least 366 kilograms of silver iodide into storm clouds to precipitate more snow into the peaks of the Snowy Mountains and boost the production of hydroelectricity. A cloud seeding trial began in 2004, so 20 years, guys. And Snowy Hydro established permanent program in 2013 after analysis found the technique was boosting snowfall. You know, so this isn't new stuff, guys, right? And so I did a bit of a search on Brave, and, you know, use Google, swap between Google and Brave a bit, but I'm loath to use Google, but sometimes I still have to. But this is all the weather modification technologies, and this is just what we know about. You know, we're talking about cloud seeding, ionospheric heaters, chemically releasing, solar radiation management, weather modification history. So the concept of weather modification dates back to the early 1940s with experiments conducted by the US military and private corporations. The most notable program was Operation Popeye, which used cloud seeding to prolong the monsoon season in Vietnam. Current status, weather modification technologies are being researched and implemented globally, with countries like China planning to modify weather over half its territory by 2025. However, there are concerns about the potential unintended consequences and the need for international regulations. You think there might be some concerns about that, but anyway. International agreements, the Environmental Modification Convention prohibits the use of environmental modification techniques for hostile purposes, but, you know, we're still going to use it as well. Research and development. Challenge and controversy is weather modification raises ethical and environmental concerns, including the potential of unintended consequences, regional tensions, and the need for international cooperation and regulation. So there's examples of weather modification projects. Project Storm Fury 1961. So 1961, guys. Oh, this goes back a bit, eh? So they're talking about using cloud seeding to weaken hurricanes, but what if it was used? What if the experiments and what they learned, the lessons they learned out of it, were actually going to increase hurricanes? But let's not go there. That's a conspiracy theory, right? The US Air Force used cloud seeding to prolong the monsoon season in Vietnam, hail suppression programs in Russia, South Africa, and Australia, cloud seeding for drought relief in the United States. So, everything that talks about discussions, the effectiveness of potential benefits, the need for international regulation, the potential of unintended consequences, the role of weather modification in climate change mitigation and adaptation strategies, and they're already doing it. Bill Gates is funding a ton of stuff. This isn't a secret. What I'm pointing out here, guys, the reason I'm pointing this out, it's not a secret that they're messing with our weather. They're intending to do this, and I'm asking you to consider that there may be a tie between making floods worse, making weather worse, to get people off their lands, out of their homes, out of certain suburbs, bring them into the cities potentially, and do others. But look, this is just speculation on my part. This is again just information for you to have it percolate in your mind. So let's have a look at councils a bit further, and ICLEI. All right, so ICLEI, we are a global network of more than 2,500 local and regional governments committed to sustainable urban development. More than 2,500 local regional governments committed to sustainable urban development, active in 125 plus countries. We influence sustainability policy and drive local action for low emissions. So this is quite a big concern operation. Integrating sustainability into urban development, we bring sustainability to a rapid developing urban world. ICLEI makes sustainability an integral part of urban development and creates systematic change in urban areas through practical integration solutions. We help cities, towns, regions anticipate and respond to complex challenges from rapid urbanisation and climate change to ecosystem degradation and inequity. Addressing challenges through local action, incorporating sustainability into day-to-day operations and policy. We saw that, the Yankalilla Council thing in the meetings. Every single council around Australia has been doing this, and it's pushed by their LGAs, and it's coming from higher. We invest in the capacity and knowledge needing to design solutions and make decisions informed by data, scientific evidence, and local realities and pressures. We work in cities, towns, and regions of all sizes with varying capacities and challenges. Many have set and reached ambitious targets, which they continue to do. And we've got our own councils as well doing this. So this is Adelaide. This is a little bit of a map there from Adelaide. So a lot of councils around here that are circled in Adelaide already jumping in on the bandwagon with ICLEI. So there's a massive. If you think councils, it's all about roads, rates, and rubbish, people. Those days are gone. These councils have been influenced by mega donors, by global think tanks and stuff. And whether I assert that they don't really, CEOs or whatever, have the best interests at heart, they're being pressured by many global think tanks to do things. So I'm just going to play a quick video. This is one of the mayors from ICLEI. We'll play that quickly if I can bring that up at the stage. This Mayor Anne Ferguson.
Hi, I'm Anne, and I'm part of ICLEI. And here we are in Mount Barker, South Australia, at this amazing town. And we are so looking forward to welcoming you so you can see what we have done for climate change in this amazing state.
Well, there you go. So that's that is there. So I'll just get out of that. Put him back there. So look there. The sound again. Let's stop that for a second. Thank you. If you heard that. So look, that's our mayors in our council areas joining with ICLEI, obviously. and they're a pretty big concern. So how does ICLEI support the UN's Sustainable Development Goals? So this one to show that, because that is all part of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. You can check all that out. ICLEI is a quite big concern. Release, and this is the other thing I wanted to tie in now is, Google's involved, and I have, obviously massive concerns with Alphabet, but let's just talk about ICLEI and Google. Release, Google and ICLEI cooperating on multi-million-dollar USD pilot fund for data-driven local climate action, right? So Google's online tool, Environmental Insights, is currently providing more than 100 cities worldwide with data to measure greenhouse gas emissions and the opportunity to take action to reduce CO2 emissions based on those data. And a lot of people are challenging this whole narrative about a global climate change emergency. ICLEI will support the allocation of the fund to projects that use the city-level data to take climate action. So this is Adelaide. This is just a bit of a search on Adelaide, what they come up with. Obviously, just showing that it's plugged into their data. But just going to show you another real quick video. It's probably a really good time to show this, because, and I'm pretty sure lots of people have seen it, and I've shared it a ton. So I'm just going to share it to tie this in a little bit. Let's share this for you. So anybody heard of Melissa Fleming?
We partnered with Google, for example. If you Google climate change, you will, at the top of your search, you will get all kinds of UN resources. We started this partnership when we were shocked to see that when we Googled climate change, we were getting incredibly distorted information right at the top. So we're becoming much more proactive. We own the science. We own the science, and we think that the world, should know it, and the platforms themselves also do. But again, it's a huge challenge that I think all sectors of society need to be very active in.
There we go. We own the science. I always raise concerns when someone claims that they own the science. So there you have it, straight from the horse's mouth. World Economic Forum, Melissa Fleming, UN, Google, ICLEI, they all say they own the information that there can't be any contesting scientists around the world that can contest that information. So I thought it might be, prudent to have a little bit of just go over a couple of things, how Google interferes with its search algorithms and changes your results. So, this isn't anything new, guys. This is, searched this quite a few years ago when I was doing another little article. This is them openly saying that they stop you accessing information, and they own the science, so they control the narrative. So Google has increasingly re-engineered and interfered with search results to a far greater degree than the company and its executives have acknowledged. Those actions often come in regions to pressure from business, outside interest groups, and governments around the world. They have increased sharply since the 2016 election and the rise of online misinformation. Whose misinformation? Google's evolving approach masks a shift from the founding philosophy of organizing the world's information to one that is far more active in deciding how the information should appear. More than 100 interviewers and the journal's own testing of Google's search results revealed Google made algorithm changes. Google engineers regularly made behind-the-scenes adjustments. Despite public denying so, Google keeps blacklists to remove certain sites or prevent others from surfacing in certain types of results. In autocomplete, the feature that predicts search terms as the user types a query, so they alter that. Google employees and executives, including co-founders Larry Page and Sergey Brin, have disagreed on how much to intervene on search results. To evaluate its search results, Google employs thousands of low-paid contractors whose purpose, the company says, is to assess the quality of the algorithm rankings. So look, quite a bit of interference there, wouldn't you say, from a massive billion dollar organization, Alphabet and Google. But Google's not the only one. So what about Facebook, and other tech giants censor inconvenient facts about climate change? They don't want you knowing anything about or researching anything about science. Yeah. While it's still permitted, this is how media bias censors the debate on climate change. So we've got Facebook, we've got Google. While it's still permitted, I'd like to note that we're having, this is from Liz Peak in 2014, having an unusually cool summer. The MLB All-Stars game was played last night in the Twin Cities under downright frosty conditions, especially in the Midwest and Northeast. Numerous cities have yet to suffer the expected heat waves of July. Explanations include something about polar vortexes and ridiculously resilient ridges. This, of course, flies in the face of much publicised predictions from the Farmer's Almanac of a summer scorcher. But don't think for a moment that a chilly July undermines the notion that the Earth is gradually getting hotter, or that last winter, one of the coldest on record, was anything but an outlier. That record-setting deep freeze has been explained away as but a speed bump in our inevitable slide towards the inferno. In an event, good luck finding a platform to suggest otherwise. Bit of censorship going on there. Increasingly, the liberal media is refusing to publish or present the views of those who challenge the science behind climate change. This is censorship. Will the next step be to make dissent illegal? Interesting comment that back in 2014. The most recent organisation silencing those who question anthropogenic, a fancy way of saying human-caused climate change, or anthropogenic global warming, is the BBC. The prestigious British broadcaster, a list there, outfit has rebuked one of its stations for featuring Nigel Lawson, who chairs the Global Warming Policy Foundation, in debate with Sir Brian Hoskins, chair of the Grantham Institute for Climate Change. Lord Lawson, former editor of The Spectator, challenged conventional climate doctrine by noting, for instance, that there have been no warming for 17 years. The BBC's editorial complaints department determined that the appearance contravened policy, claiming that Lord Lawson's opinion were not supported by the evidence or the science because it's controlled. A BBC spokesperson insisted Lord Lawson had not been banned, but said, implying that his views were on the same footing as those of the climate scientist, had created a false balance. It should be noted that Lord Lawson is not a pitchfork-wielding member of the Flat Earth Club. His sin is that he has tried to approach the issue of rising temperatures with reason rather than hysteria. His GWPF board lists eminent representatives from across the political spectrum, and his advisory committee similarly has attracted high-level scientists. And then obviously we have the Twitter files, COVID censorship requests of Australian Department of Home Affairs. So we talked about health, health emergency, climate emergencies. They want to censor everything. So, Twitter files isn't Twitter, or before Elon bought it, X. Now, it also did the same. And I did a bit of an article as well on the Australian Twitter files. Lots of people have talked into this, and Racket News also covered it as well. And thanks to the Twitter files, we've known for a while that the company official censorship partnerships extended far beyond the United States. In Australia, for instance, the company had extremely close contact with the Department of Home Affairs, whose responsibilities include oversight of national security, law enforcement, border control, and the country's lead intelligence agency, the Australian Security Intelligence Organisation. Just released Freedom of Information Act documents reveal that Twitter received 4,213 requests from the DHA, Department of Home Affairs in Australia, over a period of years, as reported in The Australian. However, the information gleaned from the request by Senator Alex Antich revealed little regarding the reasoning behind these requests, nor just how close the relationship was. In the Twitter files, Racket found 18 DHA emails collectively requesting 222 tweets be taken down. Jokes and information that later turned out to be true were frequently included in the censorship requests, which came from something called the Social Cohesion Division of the DHA's Extremism Insights and Communication Office. Not the DHA staffers were entirely sure of their spelling in every case. Right, so you know, all this is being very heavily censored. They've got the algorithms to change this, but I really just wanted to, you know, round all that up, because Melissa Fleming says that they own the science on climate change. Well, there's around nearly 2,000 eminent academics, scientists that say there is no climate emergency, and they have a message for the people. And they're saying, this is from Gus Burkhout, president of Clintel. In the past decade, the public has been flooded with fear-mongering stories telling them that global temperatures will rise to catastrophic high levels. Climate activists claim that the cause of all this impending doom is increasing amount of CO2 produced by human activities. The proposed solution is the so-called net zero emission policy, aimed at lowering human net CO2 emissions to the levels of pre-industrial era of the late 1700s. And now they're coming after our poor cows. You know, they want to stop our cows farting and belching. Now, what is that? Those activists also claim that people should panic and that time is running out. Be aware that it is 5 minutes to midnight. We must act without delay. Many thousands of scientists disagree. In his numerous last warning speeches, Antonio Guterres refers to computer simulations. And they use them in COVID, predicting COVID deaths as well, those computer simulations, not the real world. Greta Thunberg testified to the US Congress that there was no science behind her panic comment. This info cannot be found in the media. So why is there such a big difference between the scaring climate activists' narrative and the optimistic climate scientists' message, who believe there is no climate emergency? Please, before you continue reading, watch our message, but you can go on this Clintel, clintel.org, and check this out yourself. Not many citizens are aware that the frightening climate predictions have been generated by computer models, a bit like all the people that were meant to die from COVID. And we know from experience in many other complex areas how misleading computer models can be. For example, think of the many wrong predictions by economic models, or think of the large mistakes in recent pandemic modeling. There they go. The output of computer models depends fully on the assumptions that model makers put into them. In the past 50 years, the prediction on climate models about global warming and their dire effects have all been wrong. In the engineering community, they would be qualified as useless. More specifically, the assumptions in climate modelling are such that predicted temperature changes turn out to be persistently too high. Even worse, extreme weather events such as heat waves, droughts, floods, hurricanes, etc., are intentionally used to support the extreme climate predictions. But if we position the current extreme weather events in a historical context, we see that these events are climate business as usual. The conclusion is that models, computer simulations, run too hot, and that predictions of adverse effects on humans are highly dubious. They project a catastrophic future that is not born out of observations. It is much wiser and safer to rely on measurements. The history of science tells us that significant steps forward are always fueled by observations from new measurement instruments. Think of the very recent spectacular image of outer space by the new James Webb Space Telescope. The same good news applies to the modern satellites that deliver high-quality measurements around the Earth since 1979. Satellite data shows no extreme warming, and this is cross-checked by millions of weather balloons measurements. So that's you can check out Clintel yourself there, guys. But now let's tie this back in. What sort of powers do they have with all this technology now? Where do you think it's going? So they've, you know, we're under a climate emergency. They declared health emergencies and locked us down. You know, they pushed all these things. So here is a couple of examples. So electricity provider authorized to switch off rooftop solar in SA emergencies. Yes, they actually have the power to do that. They can do that remotely, because your solar panels talk on the grid and they're linked up, and they can actually change these automatically. So authorities in South Australia will have the power to deliberately trip existing rooftop solar panels in rare circumstances to prevent another statewide blackout, with similar emergency powers being sought for use in Victoria and Queensland. The Australian Energy Market Operator, AEMO, is urging the change as it grapples with technical challenges posed by rapid growth of solar power. Australia's rapid uptake of panels has moved periods of so-called minimum demand in most states from the middle of the night to the middle of the day. In states like South Australia and Victoria, the uptake of solar has been so successful that minimum demand on mild days in spring is now edging closer to zero. AEMO's electricity statement of opportunities published today states that South Australia is on track to record low minimum demand of just 250 to 350 megawatts by spring. The report states that in some scenarios, SA could reach zero minimum demand as soon as 2023. Low demand poses a major problem for operating the grid securely, particularly when South Australia's ability to export electricity to the eastern states is hampered. The state was separated from the rest of the national grid for 18 days last summer after transmission towers in Victoria were severely damaged by wild weather. Without action, if a similar event were to occur during low demand periods in spring 2020 or 2021, AEMO would not have the operational levers available to securely manage the South Australian system with a risk of disruption to South Australian customers, AEMO report states. So SA, the canary in the coal mine, the state's electricity distributor, SA Power Networks, had already been given the power to switch off all new solar installations from next month. There you go. But AEMO said that alone was not enough, revealing it was in negotiation with SA Power Networks to potentially power down existing panels. So that this is me just explaining that they actually have the power to do this, all right? AEMC rule change accelerating smart meter deployment. So you heard before about, in one of the videos, we're talking about smart water meters and smart meters. AEMC rule change draft determination. On April 4, 2024, the Australian Energy Market Commission, AEMC, published a draft determination and draft rule for the accelerating smart meter deployment rule change. This following the AEMC's receipts of a rule change request on the 29th of September 23 from SA Power Networks, IntelliHub and Alinta Energy to accelerate the deployment of smart meters. The draft rule seeks to deploy smart meters to all customers quickly and efficiently, achieving universal uptake by 2030. They love this 2030. What are they preparing us for 2030? They love pushing everything for 2030. So that's smart meter, that's smart electricity meters. But let's just have a bit of a look about this. You know, people raising concerns about this. Obviously, what logic? This is UK based, but still it makes the point. Smart meters handing over control of electricity usage. This month saw a flurry of negative press about smart meters as journalists awoke to the implications of some proposed industry changes that could lead to suppliers remotely switching off appliances used by domestic customers. Imagine that you do as the government wants you to do and buy an electric car. Then you replace your dirty old gas boiler with an electric heat pump and install a smart meter. You think you have done your bit to help the environment. It's for the greater good. So what is your reward? To have your electricity company use your smart meter to turn off your power because there is not enough juice in the grid? Suddenly you find yourself sitting in a cold home and your plans to drive to Birmingham tomorrow are scuppered because your car won't be fully charged. Smart meters have been sold to us as part of Green Future, where we can manage our homes via mobile phones, switching appliances on and off and remotely so as to cut our bills. But it is the cynics so often denounced in the past few years as paranoid and backward thinking who have worked out the real reason why electricity companies are so keen to install them in our homes. They want to ration our electricity. And I go a bit further by saying they actually want to control us. So here's this one about the SA Water. Do have the technology for smart water meters as well. You know, is that going to be a push there from them for 2030 to have smart water meters, smart electricity meters, control your consumption, all under the guise of a climate emergency. You know, they just love these emergencies, when they just another way to control us. And then obviously, you know, smart cars, you know, EVs have been pushed. You know, BHP even wanted to get on the bandwagon and wants Australia to ban new petrol cars by 2035. They've given us another 5 years past the big 2030, but you know, this push to go electric and is coming from major corporations, government, and other places. So, and again, my mate Bruce covered this in one of our podcasts quite often, actually, about the concerns with EVs and the hackability and all those sorts of things as well, and plus lots of other concerns around them as well. So then, what about CBDCs? You know, Australia's RBA to prioritise wholesale CBDC work over retail. So we talked about being able to control our electricity, control our water. We've got smart cities, you know, looking at accessing our data for everything. And obviously the push, as many people know, the Australia's RBA to prioritise wholesale CBDC work over retail. Sydney, September 18 in Reuters, Australia's central bank has decided to prioritise work on a wholesale central bank digital currency as its economic benefits are judged to outweigh those of a retail version, a top policymaker said on Wednesday. In a conference speech, Reserve Bank of Australia Assistant Governor Brad Jones announced the launch of a 3-year digital money work plan for the RBA and Treasury called Project Acacia. The project would include industry and focus on opportunities to lift the efficiency, transparency, and resilience of wholesale markets through tokenized money and new settlement infrastructure. Subsequent phases could well involve cross-border applications with regional central banks, Jones said. The RBA and Treasury would still reassess the merits of a retail CBDC over time and plan a follow-up paper in 2027. If a retail version were to be adopted, the Australian government would have to make the decision, and it would most certainly require legislative change, he added. So the reason I highlighted that is we've seen how our duopoly, Liberal Labor, will rush through bills that is to their benefit and put in place things that that control us. So, you know, make legislative change, especially if we can ram them through Parliament in a very short period of time. And we see where this sort of stuff ends, don't we? I mean, you know, under the protests during the draconian measures in Canada, and Trudeau was on par with our Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews, and they obviously, you know, decide to arc up, and but they again using this Emergencies Act. So they love these emergencies. They love bringing in legislation under emergencies, don't they? So they had over 200 bank accounts were frozen during that time, holding $8 million. They were frozen in an effort to end a convoy occupation. So, you know, this is the screws are tightening. And again, you can dismiss this as conspiracy and whatever. If you want to, I'm just sharing this for information purposes, and you do your own due diligence. But it's good to see Australia. You are starting to take action, and I'll encourage more of it. Aussies rally against cashless society following Optus outage. Yep, cash rules. Because we're starting to realise where this is all going. So I take heart that more and more people are actually, you know, waking up to the kind of globalist influences going on in our lives. So it's good to see. Good on your Aussies for keeping cash alive, and let's keep it even more, because the banks are working really hard to close branches. They'll probably, you know, get rid of ATMs. But, you know, they'll want to get us on this tokenized system and all that sort of stuff. So hat off to you guys for doing that. So, and why do I talk about this whole legislation thing? I just wanted to talk into this about our Labor and Liberal Party and Greens, Labor and Greens and Liberal Nationals. So this is just my view, and although there are clear ideological differences, especially on social issues, the economic policies and political practices of the Labor and Liberal parties have shown convergence over time, and we've seen that with this under 16s bill. And I assert that they are two sides of the same coin. In terms of the broader political system's operation, where the real choice might not be between fundamentally different governance styles, but rather nuances in policy implementation and priority. And I believe this is due to the influences from unelected global think tanks who are manipulating us into a global governance structure. So I believe that our Quad Party, the Liberal, Nationals, Labor, Greens, need to be upheaved. We need to have people joining minor parties, even if you feel yourself to be a member of parliament or a senator or whatever, and look at if a minor party resonates itself, a smaller party, or even as an independent. And we've got thousands of people now ready to volunteer and help with that. And through, obviously got the Alliance Council of Australia and others. There's a massive army growing. So we need change. It's not going to happen. Things are going to get a lot worse if we keep these people in power. I can guarantee you that. So talking about the the Alliance Council of Australia, there's over 39 members within the organisation of the Alliance Council of Australia. We got nearly 1.8 million individuals, right? So this is what I'm saying, we're an army. And as the federal elections and state elections come up, we need to use every single soldier in that army to make some change for those elections. So the Quad Party can no longer rush bills through Parliament, and we need to be able to hold them to account because they want to legislate us into submission. So we just need to keep fighting back. And if you happen to be here in South Australia, we also have the great people of Flag on the Hill who just recently organised the Free Media Summit 2.0 in Adelaide. Had some great speakers here. If you want to get involved in South Australia, is a capable association formed to offer strategic planning to support and give direction to the wider SA freedom movement groups and individuals. So jump on their website, flagonthehill.com. If you want to get involved here in South Australia and you want to be, get yourself ready for pushing back on WHO staff or getting ready for the federal and state elections, jump on board, chuck your details in there. It'll get through to someone will reach out and see if you feel like you've got gifts and that you can contribute in some way, whether even if it's a small way. Jump on there and check those guys out and see if you can assist a little bit further. As well, I'm slowly starting to get to wind up. I know I've been going on for a bit, guys, been rabbiting on a bit, but if some of the stuff that I've been talking about and you really want to take a bit of a deep dive, for starters, there's so many out there, but I recommend checking out Whitney Webb. There's her Linktree there, Linktree Whitney Webb site there. And just so you all know, I'm going to upload this to my Substack, and I'm going to include all the links that I've gone through. So if people want to jump on those, or on a reference for that, I'm going to put it all on my Substack as well. But yeah, Whitney Webb and obviously the Corbett report. Now there is many others, and people can probably throw some messages to me and recommend to others, others to follow it. But if you want to go a deep dive to some of the topics that we're talking about this global control, and that is a good place to start with the Corbett report and Whitney Webb. So where to from here? This is old mate going back to Yuval. I played that 4-minute video to you. I wanted that to percolate in your mind. But old mate Yuval is saying here that history began when humans invented gods and will end when humans become gods. Now here's my message to you guys. Many of you probably know that I'm a Christian, and I'm not going to go all gospel-y on you, but I have my view, my faith. Regardless of whether you think you don't believe or whatever, you need to ask yourself, do you want the 1%, the globalist elites, all these people from their think tanks? You might not believe in a God or creator or whatever, but the big question I ask you is do you want these people to be your God, or do you want to push back with 1.8 million Australians that are part of the Alliance Council of Australia and tell these people where to go and assert to them that they are not your God? You are a sovereign human being, an Australian, and regardless of whether you're patriotic, love this country, they are not your God. So if you want to push back on that, then I highly recommend following the team at Aligned Council of Australia or here in South Australia. Put a message out to the FOF team, and if you're in other states, I know there's a lot of good commentators in other states, a lot of good podcasters, and that are growing links within their own states. And I just want to continue that movement because at the end of the day, this guy and his ilk are not my God. They will never be my God. I won't bow down to them. And I do not respect them one iota because they want to control us. So look, I've covered quite a bit, guys, right? I know that I've probably bounced from a few things, but I hope that I've tied a few things together about here in South Australia, other places, linking in with Yuval Harari's little 4-minute speech there about us being hackable animals and we're controlled and we don't have a soul and all this sort of stuff. And I assert that our governments have the power and control to be able to bring us further into a dystopian future. So I encourage you to push back. And I'm just going to finish up on one very, very last video. And this is hopefully makes you feel good. Look, I love this. I love this play, this movie, and I love this song. And it's because this is a global issue. I chose the one that had different nationalities singing this song, and I kind of just want to play it, and then I'm going to wind it up. And if you want to shut off now, you don't want to hear it, but it resonates with me, and I think we all need to continue to push back. So I'll play that for you now, and hope you all have an amazing night, and look forward to talking to you all again soon.
Do you hear the people singing the song of angry men? It is the music of a people who will not be slaves again. When the beating of your heart echoes the beating of a drum, there is a life about to start when tomorrow comes. À la volonté du peuple et à la santé du progrès. Das ist die Symphonie von Menschen, die nicht länger Sklaven sind. Arapaniatsui, inochi ga hajimaru. Asu ga kita toki so sasu ga. Al-Samali Kuchokal, ki al-Sha'ir Schortzunke. Ifrån vår barrikad så kan man se ett framtidsland. Så kom hit och slåss, du ska kämpa med oss om du kan. Będziesz słuch, to śpiewa lud, co nie chce żyć w niewoli znów. Alla de mensen die verdommen om nog langer slaaf te zijn. When the beating of your heart echoes the beating of the drums, there is a life about to start when tomorrow comes. Wenn du kämpfst mit ganzer Kraft, hat ein Ende alle Not. Some will fall and some will leave. Will you stand up and take your chance? The blood of the mothers will water the meadows of France. Come the höre folkesång, det är sång från marken där. Sätta ditt liv ur staden vid i oss, det blir i Sverige. Och ditt uppförtåg var stor, snabbt så stärkt det hjärteslag. Det ska ni till och liv och den livet är. Will you find it hard to say who will be strong and stand with me? Om det kan söker vänta sen vad frans kom aldrig vilja mig. Do you hear the people sing? Say do you hear the distant drums? It is the future that they bring when tomorrow comes.
God bless you, Australia. Take care. Be safe.